Hey guys, Jake here, and today we are here with my draft analysis for the Hive. Now, if you don't know what the Hive is, it is a league sort of thing that has 48 players, and it is broken up into 3 divisions of 16, Beedrill, Kakuna, and Weedle, Beedrill being the most competitive, and I am in the Beedrill division, so that's pretty cool. And now I'll be talking about the draft system. The draft system was a GBA style draft, which basically meant you have 1,000 points to choose 11 mons, but the mega, if you draft a lower tier mega, you can add to that point total to draft the remainder of your mons. So, starting with my draft, I decided to pick up Weavile because Weavile is one of my favorite mons in the format. People don't think it's a first round pick, but I honestly think it is because with Z moves, this thing is so much greater because it can beat its checks with stuff like, Z Poison Jab. Z Poison Jab for like a Tapu Fini or something along those lines. It gives me strong priority right off the bat, which is really strong, and a Pursuit Trapper. This thing has a really nice move pool that goes unused, in my opinion. It's got all the coverage it needs. It doesn't have huge coverage, but it has everything it needs. It has stuff like Low Kick for steel types. Icicle Crash and Knockoff are just great general stabs, very hard to switch into. And it just gives me a blistering 125 speed to start off the draft, which is really, really nice. I'm already hitting that 383 speed tier, which is something good to build around, so I don't have to worry about speed too much later in the draft. Now, with my next pick, I decided to pick up Salamence. Now, going into this draft, this is more of a casual league compared to the CPC, which is my other main league, but I'm obviously still going to try in this league. But I just wanted to try mons that I had used before, but I wanted to try it again. So Salamence was a mon I really want to try it again. I think it's definitely one of the top dragons, just because it's so scary when it sets up a dragon dance, because every time it gets a kill, it could just raise its attack. And this is an amazing Z-mon user because of Z-Fly. That, if +1 Salamence with using Z-Fly, almost nets a kill every single time. And if you don't have like an Ice Shard user, which I have one of them, but if you don't have like an Ice Shard user, you're in a lot of trouble if you face a Salamence. So this thing can be very bulky with Intimidate, so that's pretty useful. It's got a pretty nice support move pool. It's got stuff like Wish, Tailwind, Defog, but I probably won't run that as much, but it's a really nice dragon to start off my draft. That's a really nice dragon to start off my Fairy Dragon Steel Core with. Now, the next mon I decided to pick was Nidoqueen, and people might think it's a bit too early in the draft for Nidoqueen, but I don't think it's ever too early for Nidoqueen, unless it's first round, because Nidoqueen is such a solid mon. It's probably the best electric check in the game. It has really diverse stats and versatile stats, so you can pretty much run any spread, honestly. It's super amazing move pool. It's got not Crunch. It's got Stealth Rocks and Toxic Spikes. It gives me my first hazards of the draft, which is really important. And this is a really reliable rocker, which is something I want to use. And if this thing's holding a Life Orb, it's pretty hard to switch into. And with Sheer Force, boosted Earth Powers, Sludge Waves, and Ice Beams, this thing can give a lot of people trouble while prepping for this thing. It also can go physical as well. If you want to lure like Snorlax or something, you can run Poison Jab, which can 2-hit KO it. It can go physical or special, which is really nice. And I'm really excited to use Nidoqueen this season. It's one of my favorite mons. And speaking of one of my favorite mons, in the next round, I decided to pick up Metagross, and I love Metagross. I just think it's I think steel types are needed in every single draft, and Metagross does everything that you want a steel type to do. It's versatile. It can be It can be like an agility sweeper, and then just spam meter mash and get those attack raises. It has really good coverage. It pretty much has flawless coverage. It gets everything it needs except for Fire Punch maybe, but this thing still has a pretty formidable special attack stat, so if you want to run HP Fire for a Scissor or something, that's definitely something I can do. This thing gives me another reliable rocker. This thing can be physically defensive, it can be AV. It's just a really solid mon. It's really versatile. It could be a really nice lure with berries. I'm really excited to use Metagross this season. And with the next mon, right before this pick, I got sniped of Lucario, which made me really sad because Lucario was tier 3 in this draft, and it's usually tier 2, and I think tier 3 is insane value for Lucario. But sadly, it was sniped just one pick before me, and so I was kind of panicking. And I knew I wanted a grass type and some removal because my first 2 mons that I built around are weak to rocks. And Serena is overall a really nice rapid spinner. It's got grass types are pretty necessary in my opinion, so it gives me a good water resist. It has reliable recovery and synthesis. It gives me a U-turner, so I can U-turn into these threats. And Drop Kick is a pretty nice move to stop setup sweepers because it can lower the attacks. It's got pretty nice defensive stats and a good attack stat if you want to go offensive, so that's pretty neat. And with my next mon, I decided to go with Hawlucha. Hawlucha I have actually never used before, but it was tier 3 as well. And I wanted a fighting type to replace Lucario, and I thought Hawlucha was a pretty solid option in that regard. It gives me more speed. It's like, as you can see, besides Weavile, I'm kind of lacking speed. And this thing has one of the strongest moves in the game, High Jump Kick, so it can be difficult to switch into. This thing is pretty good with Z moves. You can run Z Sky Attack. Oh, and by the way, the Z move rule in this league is you can run Z moves on any mon. You can run attacking Z moves on any mon, but you have to pick one status Z user, and I will get into that later on. So Hawlucha has a really nice move pool. If it got Ice Punch, it'd be insane, but overall it still gives me another U-turner. It can set up. Unburden is a pretty nice ability because you can run the Citrus Berry sub SD set, and that can just sweep teams easily. And it can baton pass as well. It can encore. It can bulk up. It's got a lot of really nice options, and I'm definitely looking forward to using this. And for my next Pokemon, I wanted to complete my Fairy Dragon Steel Core and pick up Granbull. Now, Granbull is a really underrated mon in my opinion, because it's a Fairy type, which is always really useful, and it's a really nice physical wall. With the Intimidate, it can switch into a lot of physical threats, and it's 120 because of its 120 special attack stat. This thing hits pretty hard, even when uninvested with Play Rough. And this thing has a pretty nice support move pool as well. It gets stuff like Thunder Wave. It gets Heal Bell, so it gives me a Cleric, which is really important in case I want to heal statuses off of Weavile or Salamence. So that's pretty nice. It also has really good coverage. Fairy is obviously a pretty good offensive type, and it gets Earthquake for the Steel types. And this thing is really bulky on the physical side with the Intimidate. And the next mon I picked kind of early, but I feel like it was necessary. And I picked Licky Licky. Now, Licky Licky, in my opinion, is one of the best tier 5s, because it has amazing bulk. This thing can switch it to a lot of special wall breakers, actually, and it gives me a Wish Passer, which is really important, because a lot of my team lacks reliable recovery, and Licky Licky can Wish Pass and heal those guys up, which is pretty crucial, because I want my team having some longevity, and Licky Licky will be a pretty nice glue to this team. Now, with my next mon, I wanted a tier 2, and so there weren't really that many amazing tier 2s left, but Doug Trio was still on the board, and I decided, sure, why not pick up Doug Trio? This thing can trap the steel types that give Weavile or Salamence trouble, which is pretty nice, and Serena. This thing can... My team is a little bit of trouble with electric types, other than Nidoqueen and Serena, so this thing can trap those. It gives me more speed, which is pretty crucial, and it gives me another rocker if I wanted to run rocks that week. And this was what I chose as my stat Zeemon because of Z Memento. Now, if you don't know what Z Memento does, it basically just, if you use Z Memento, anything that comes in is fully healed, and the mon on the opposing side has its attack and special attack sharply lowered. So if I want to use Z Memento and open the door for something like Salamence or an SD Weavile to sweep, I can definitely do that. And that doesn't have to be the only Doug Trios that I can run. I could also run Choice Band if I want to just hit as hard as possible. And it gives me another Pursuit Trapper as well if I want to Pursuit Trap things in the air. So that's pretty nice. And with the next Pokemon, I wanted to try another mon I had never used before, and this was Mega Blastoise. Now, I wanted a lot of hazard control for these first two mons because I honestly might be bringing them every week because they're that good. And Mega Blastoise is probably one of the best spinners in the game because it can hit those spin blockers hard with a Mega Launcher boosted Dark Pulse. This thing has really good stats overall. It could switch into a lot of physical and special attacks if need be. This thing hits hard even uninvested and has really nice coverage. And I'm really looking forward to using this thing. And for my last mon, I decided to go with Ditto, and Ditto is a very interesting mon. When it's used correctly, it can be a really force to be reckoned with. Now, Ditto plus Doug Trio is going to really hurt a lot of people during prep. They're going to have to, like, this could force, Doug Trio forces people to run Shed Shell, which means I don't have an item, which is nice, and Ditto, it can cause them to run a whole mon entirely just because they need something to beat their own threats, which is what I did last season when I faced a Ditto. So I'm pretty excited to use Ditto. It'll definitely mess with my opponents a lot. And as I mentioned, Doug Trio is my Z status mon because of the Z Memento capabilities. And thank you all for watching. Goodbye.